I don't take what has happened to Wilder now as any negative statement on Fury.
This is Jonathan Aguioff of Pro Boxing Fans, joined by legendary broadcaster Jim Lampley here in Las Vegas, an iconic place for an iconic fight week. Tank Davis against Frank Martin this weekend. Jim, obviously you are, as you can see behind, ppv.com. You're doing the viewer chat. Just tell us a bit about that first of all.
So it's a new medium of communication. Great opportunity for fight fans to become a part of covering the fight at the moment at which it's taking place. You buy the television hookup for the fight. You click on the opportunity to be in ppv.com, and in ppv.com you share text observations with me, a boxing writer named Lance Pugmire, Dan Canobio of CompuBox, Chris Algieri, all four of us offering our observations in text as to what's going on in the fight. Viewers are a part of the stream at the same time, and we provide a whole new method of covering a fight live on ppv.com.
So, you know, the MGM Grand became synonymous with the biggest fights we've ever seen, certainly in recent years. You've obviously covered a lot of them. What's been your favourite fight here?
Well, my favorite fight here, and I noticed when I went into their little museum, it was the first poster you see, is November 5, 1994, the night that George Foreman knocked out Michael Moorer to become the oldest heavyweight champion in history. And it's my favorite partially because at that time, George Foreman was our expert commentator on HBO. He was working next to me fight after fight, week after week, month after month, and we had chatted a couple times about what I saw as the very limited possibility that he could beat 26-year-old Michael Moorer and become the heavyweight champion. But he did, and became the only 45-year-old ever to win the heavyweight title and remains in that identity to this day.
Obviously this weekend, Tank Davis, as he says, the face of boxing. I don't think many people disagree, but on paper, would you say this is the toughest fight of his career?
We'll see. I don't know enough about Frank Martin to tell you whether this is the toughest fight of Tank's career. Tank is quite a specimen. He's a powerful, selective, skilled power counterpuncher. He has 27 knockouts and 29 wins. He does it economically without having to flood the zone with a lot of punches. He's highly accurate, and it's quite a mixture of talents. Makes him very tough to beat. Martin, of course, says that he saw some things in a sparring session that showed him that he could compete with Tank Davis, and he believes he's going to beat him, and on the basis of such beliefs and ambitions have big upsets taken place in the past. So we'll see. It would be a big upset if Martin were able to beat Tank, but we've seen that kind of thing happen before.
Should what many people think is going to happen, which is a Tank Davis win, who is the next best fight for him?
Well, he can look down the scale and try to set up a fight with the great Shakur Stevenson, and a lot of people would love to see that fight. He can point up the scale and seek to fight, the winner of a rematch between Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, if that were going to be the case. He's already knocked out Garcia once. I'm sure he would love to make the kind of money that would go with yet another matchup against the American star. There are quite a number of opportunities for Tank because right now the sport is loaded with talent from 122 up to 146 pounds, and Tank is in the middle of all that.
David Benavidez facing Oleksandr Usyk at light heavyweight, his first fight at light heavyweight. This seems like a move that's been inevitable given Benavidez' size. What threat is he at light heavyweight, or is that what we're going to find out on Saturday night? I think David Benavidez is a monster puncher. I think David Benavidez has as much power for his weight as almost any
anybody I have seen in recent years. And I admire him for taking on a technical challenge against a really skilled boxer with a strong background in Oleksandr Usyk. And I admire him partially because Benavidez was honest enough to say to me that when he sparred with Usyk in Oxnard, California, a couple of years ago, he had some difficulty against Usyk's jab, counter punching ability, technical skill. So I think it's an excellent matchup. I do expect Benavidez to win it and keep moving forward toward bigger assignments, including the subject of light heavyweight, including the question of whether David Benavidez is going to grow and maybe someday become a super hard punching heavyweight.
Can boxing fans still be hopeful that the Canelo Alvarez fight happens with David Benavidez?
We can hope. And, money talks. As the public's interest in Benavidez grows, as Benavidez's resume grows, particularly if he keeps demonstrating the kind of punching power he has demonstrated, there's going to be enormous pressure on Canelo Alvarez to take that fight.
Last time I spoke to you was in April at Haney against Garcia, and we spoke a bit about Tyson Fury against Oleksandr Usyk, and you told me that when you become, a celebrity or a Netflix star, that can really, you felt that was a factor going into the fight. Having watched the fight with Usyk and the result, do you still feel the same about that? And, what did you think of the fight?
Usyk is serious business. He has now proven in several different fights that he is capable of adapting to the circumstances and finding the way to beat the seemingly physically superior specimen in front of him. Joshua was bigger and stronger and a bigger puncher. Usyk beat him twice. Fury was bigger and stronger and logically a bigger puncher. Usyk beat him and was the clear winner of the fight. So I think that you have to give Usyk credit for being who he is, for having proven once again that boxing is more about craft than about muscle, and he's the favorite for the moment against any heavyweight in the world that you could put in with him.
The expectation is that Anthony Joshua will face Daniel Dubois on September 21st. I don't know how much you've seen of Daniel Dubois, but how big a challenge is that for Joshua? What do you see from that fight?
Dubois is a good boxer, and he can crack. Joshua has to have his game in order. Has to be paying attention. I don't think he proved a single thing by beating an MMA guy, particularly because the MMA guy, Ngannou, made a colossal technical mistake against him, stepping into a southpaw stance in the first round. As soon as Ngannou stepped into the southpaw stance against Anthony Joshua, I typed into my stream for ppv.com, he wants to taste Joshua's right hand. And he did. And that was the end of that. There isn't a really skilled heavyweight boxer alive who's going to step into a southpaw stance and invite Anthony Joshua to hit him with a right hand. So I wait to see what happens in the future. For right now, Usyk is the number one heavyweight.
And just final thing to ask you about, Jim. Deontay Wilder suffered a second straight defeat to Zhilei Zhang. In your opinion, does he come back from that? And how will he be remembered? Will people say, he's overrated? Or, how will people assess his career?
He's a wildly exciting fighter who gave American boxing audiences a super powerful puncher to root for in the heavyweight division and delivered on that a couple of times in spectacular fashion. He got outboxed at the top level by Fury and now in another instance. And so I think I'm the last person who tells fighters when to retire. I started doing that a long time ago in my boxing career, and a couple of my good friends who were fighters stepped forward and said, what if one of us told you that you should retire from announcing? Is that really our privilege? And I said, no, you're right. I get it. I understand that this is how these people make their livings, and how they present to the world. So I'm not going to tell him or anybody else that it's time to retire, but I have read some articles from thoughtful and meaningful boxing journalists who said that it is time for Wilder to retire. I have to imagine that he's considering it.
And just actually, finally, we had a comment on one of our social posts following Wilder's defeat saying that, you know, is there a question mark now about Fury's legacy? Was those wins over Wilder that good now? Like, how do you look at that debate?
I think that for Wilder to have been defeated and to look bad is, yes, a small blemish in the overall Fury picture. But styles make fights. Every matchup is different. Just because something happened between two guys in one instance in the ring doesn't make it a definitive statement on another person. I don't take what has happened to Wilder now as any negative statement on Fury.
This Saturday, don't miss it. Tank against Martin, live on ppv.com with this man, Jim Lampley, going through it. And yeah, Jim, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.